Hi, guys. Welcome to this solo cast as I am here in South Africa and looking to share some of the insights and the energy that I've received from this place. And this is our last evening. We fly out tomorrow. So if this is finding you, thanks for watching. And we've had quite a trip. Actually, we've had a series of 3 incredible trips, both incredible in their own right. About 3 months ago, we started in Costa Rica, and we were with an incredible group of humans doing some self-development and looking at some land for a potential center and retreat space. And then we went home for the holiday, both Thanksgiving, and then we turned around and went to India, and then we went to Japan. And then we turned right around and came to South Africa. But that's not what this solo cast is about. What this is about is what I am observing in nature and what I'm both observing in myself and with the clients that we work with, but more so what I'm observing in nature. And over the course of the last few years and really my entire life, but I've been more aware of it in the last 3 years, is this intelligence that is living inside of all living things, from plants to animals to stone and wood, the weather patterns, the cyclical nature of absolutely everything. And here are the lessons that nature has taught me while we're here. The first one is that nature is deeply, deeply intelligent at every single layer, from the layers of the sand and the ant into all of the animals and all of the birds and aquatic creatures. Everything is divinely intelligent and divinely informed, and it's operating in a collective ecosystem, that nothing survives on its own. And I think this is important to capture because as I look at nature and as I allow nature to teach me, I am really seeing the ways in which we as humans, when we are disconnected from the natural occurrence of nature, how we suffer and how it creates disease. And when we're in isolation, things break down. Our nervous system, our capacity to self-heal and regenerate can be affected. Our overall mood and sense of well-being. When we are operating as a singular entity without an awareness of the collective, things really start to go south. And I think this is even more poignant for me personally because there was so much of my life where I was hyper independent, and that was something that was a story that I had and a survival mechanism for some of the ways in which I was raised and the things that I experienced early on. And there were parts of my experiences being very young where I created a way of surviving the environmental influences that said that I need to do this all on my own and I can't trust anyone. And of course, that's not true, but it was the story that I held for a long period of time. I actually watched that through my business when I really was an independent contractor running my book of business as a personal trainer and really being hyper vigilant in that singular capacity and not reaching out to help, rather being the one that could figure it all out and do it all by myself. But what I experienced during that time, if I look back, was a sense of being quite disconnected to my relationships and to others. And the relationships that I did have during that period were usually alcohol driven or some sort of escapism driven. And it wasn't so much about deep connection. There was some, but not a ton. So when Lisa and I got together a year or so prior to that, I really had the understanding that this doesn't work by myself. And I don't want it to. I don't want to do it by myself. I want to do it with others. And with that, I was able to see, and I'm still seeing, the power in the collaboration and the power in what happens when we work with those in our environment and the power of community. and the collective ecosystem in that way. And then most recently, in the last couple of years, I've seen it so deeply, especially working with Monica in her journey space and going through the somatic emotional release therapies and guiding others in their practices. I've really started to understand that it is in the collective that we heal, and it is in the collective that we are able to experience ourselves in a number of ways. I think of it as chemistry. If you have a singular molecule, it behaves a certain way, but when you add just one, it starts to behave differently. And if you add two, it starts to behave even differently than that. And then so on, kind of like the flower of life. So one thing nature has taught me is that nature doesn't exist in isolation. It is collaborative through and through. Everything is interacting with everything else, and it depends on its life. Its survival is dependent on the others. And there are so many examples of this, but I will leave it at that. The next thing that was really, really, really felt is, and this is something I've been studying for a period of time, but plants. Man, there's so many plants here, so many plants. And if you guys know me, you know that I am absolutely enamored with trees. And South Africa is a tree, it's a tree heaven. And when I look at how the trees grow here and the quality of the branches and the leaves, it's thriving. It is thriving. And now when I look at plants, and as I've deepened my studies with plants, I understand that plants actually change how they inform us based on the environment that they are grown in. Not only the weather, but their stress level. So when we are consuming something that is highly farmed in the sense of like commercial farming and the pesticides and things like that, like the high stress environments for a plant, the machinery of it, the plant will actually change its nutrient level. And that's wild. That's so wild. I mean, it makes sense. If you have anything in a stressed environment, the way that it interacts with its environment will change. So why are plants any different? So that has connected me to the incredible necessity for us to have farming that is eco-conscious. And that is just not something that we have a lot of in the States. In the same way as we would in Japan, for example, that is very connected to its ancestral roots with farming, as well as South Africa. Like it's pretty incredible. And then even deeper with plants, and this is something that I will bring to an upcoming workshop about plant medicine. Even deeper in plants, we have the aspect of depending on how you prepare the plant, it will release different vitamins, minerals, and enzymes. And I think that that is so fantastic and such an intelligent design. And it will also differ based on if the plant is being eaten by perhaps an insect, like the actual signaling that the plant emits will change if it's being eaten by an insect or if it's being cut by a human. And there are studies where they have put a lie detector on plants and they have emit a different frequency based on whether they know they're going to get watered or if they're going to get trimmed. Fascinating. So there's that. Something else in nature. Nature doesn't care, doesn't have an agenda. It just is in flow with the cycles of Earth, with the mother. And incredibly, we as humans have gotten so disconnected from that, especially with consumerism and the consumerism society. And man, I am super guilty of that. But guilt aside, it's interesting to think about all the ways in which I have resisted just the natural flow of things and thinking that I have any sort of control there, you know? And in this experience, we had kind of some raging fires that were in the wine country in Parle during the wedding we were at. And fire is going to fire, right? We know this from being in California. And then when we were in Kapama State Reserve, there were historic flooding. And we were really fortunate that we were at a lodge that didn't get evacuated. And so we had this beautiful place to be like, quote unquote, locked down. And in that place, we got to just be with nature. And I kept reminding myself there, like, just let nature inform you. Just let it inform you. Just watch it. And we got to watch lions and giraffes and impala and hippo and rhinos. What else? Buffalo. And they just do what they do based on what's available, based on the time of day. Feeding is in the morning and the evening. They conserve energy. They're not winding themselves up, trying to be more than what they are. They are collaborative. A lot of the animals that we witnessed are empathetic. And it's interesting to think of all of the moments where we as humans resist what is. And we resist our own nature. So when I look at any of these plants, and this is really the deeper information that I'm seeing here, when I look at the plants and I look at the animals and I look at us as humans, I look at every single individual as being divinely informed and not informed from an outside source, but informed from just who we are as unique experiences, just as one plant is unique from the next. It might have similarities, but the way that the energetic field informs it, or even I'm reading a book right now called The Morphogenic Field, and it is drawing a conversation out about what is actually informing the space between all matter. And to me, that space is God. To me, that space is the intelligence of nature. It is the space between the matter that informs everything. And so much of our culture, I feel, is a distraction, really, from the divine innate intelligence that is this system. And if we've been so distracted with consumerism, if we've been so distracted with the to-dos and climbing up the corporate ladders and all of these things that have been so prolific in our Western culture, we aren't connecting to our beautiful intelligent design. And of course, if you are watching this or listening, you are likely a part of the Green Door Life community in some way. And the path that we're on is really to help people to start to deeply listen, right? You hear me say this all the time. We haven't been taught to deeply listen. And listening isn't with our ears, right? Witnessing ourselves without an agenda. And how often are we without an agenda? And that's a tough one, right? Because there's always something to do. But if we just let ourselves kind of flow, we get to experience ourselves in our natural state. And I think the majority of us haven't been really taught that. But that's what kids do, right? Kids just play and they get to experience themselves if they don't have a externally imposed agenda. Big sigh. If you don't know this about me, I've had a very unique upbringing for most cultures, I think. I was born and raised in a home that my parents run that was kind of like a boarding house. And so we had a lot of different people coming in and out of the home, adults. And so I got to live in an environment where I had exposure to a lot of different cultures, a lot of different professions, different personality types, and they were all just normally in my household. So it felt like extended family. And as I got older, I found that I really gravitated towards those kinds of ecosystems, not only because it made sense to me and it felt somewhat normal, but also because we thrive in community, right? And tribal cultures know this, but the Western society has really disassociated and pulled that apart. And being in South Africa and Japan and India, Costa Rica, they may not all have it exactly right, but they definitely all portray an element of the necessity of the collective and the value and the importance of community and that type of ecosystem. So, I am so deeply fortunate to be able to have these experiences. And I don't take it lightly. And if anything, this is why I wanted to capture this today so I could speak from the energy that I have currently in this place and speak from the heart while I'm here with the field that is informing me. And I feel a certain type of responsibility to be able to take these learnings and also to be able to honor how my unique system processes them, right? Because how I see the world is not like anyone else, and that's by design. And that is for all of you. How you see the world is not like anyone else, and that's by design. And so all of our voices are important, and all of our specialties and our unique ways of creating and experiencing existence is by design. And you never know how it's going to land for someone, and you never know when it's going to be needed. And so I think one of the bigger things is that I'm learning is just not to edit, like not to edit who we are, because that is essentially resisting our, and it doesn't mean that we have to be rude, right? Because I do believe that at the deepest point, we are all nature and we are all divinely guided and connected and informed. But it's only when we allow the mind to come in with the shoulds and the supposed tos and the keeping up with the Joneses, per se, that we prevent the natural divine order of things to happen. So that's where I'm at right now and wanted to share it with all of you guys. Of course, I will also say that I could not have arrived at this place without doing a lot of deep work, a lot of deep work. 3 years specifically, and really like the 2 years that I stopped drinking alcohol. Man, the lessons and the looking. And what I know now is that if I have arrived at this place after 2 years, I can't even imagine the depths that I will reach within myself in the next year or two. Because what I'm finding is the more that I am aware about the internal voices that I've had and the ways that I will potentially block myself out of fear and survival of a certain story or loop that's running, the more I'm aware of those, the more I am becoming so calm and centered within myself. And what I know now is that it's developing an internal safety and trust of what I am capable of, and not capable of externally, but capable of internally. So how I support my system from the inside. And that is one of the reasons why I continue to be so passionate about first nutrition science, exercise science, behavior change, but now somatic emotional release therapies. But they are all intertwined. Every single one of them is necessary, just like nature. Every single one. If we don't have balanced blood sugar, our nervous system will be dysregulated. If we don't have appropriate muscle, we won't produce the hormones necessary and that will support balanced blood sugar. Like if we're not interacting with nature and have a good light environment, our nervous system is affected, our blood sugar is infected, inflammation rises. If we are not aware or we don't have the tools to really be with the sensations of our body and understand how there's a map that's waiting for us in our system, and that emotions are messengers, they are energy in motion, and they are literally signaling and telling us something. If we're not working with all of it, to me, we're kind of missing the point because all of it is happening inside of us, for whether we are aware of it or not. So why not allow us to be informed, right? And so that is one of the reasons why, no matter how long I've been doing this, because man, I've been coaching and in the health industry for 22 years, like truly like coaching people, it never gets old for that reason because it's literally a part of who we are. I remember I did this ad when I was the Diet Talk Lifestyle, and I said, everybody's got a body. Everybody's got a body. And you know what? That shit's still true. Everybody has a body. And I think being here, I feel like people are more connected to their body because they're more connected to nature. That's the line that I'm seeing. And there's a grace and an ease that's felt here and a groundedness. Immediately when we flew into Cape Town on day one, I felt immediately more grounded. It was so cool to just, and also to be able to trust that my system can feel it and I can identify what I'm feeling. That is cool. That is cool now to be able to move into a place and trust my system so deeply that I can say, I know what I'm feeling and I trust it and I don't have to think twice about it. And then that very thing, that trusting, gets to be applied in all aspects of my life. And that I want other people to have. I want all of us to be able to have that internal trust. I know a lot of people in my life do. A lot of the practitioners in the training tree do, which is why we're all coming together, because we have that deep trust in self and we can be in the conversation with each other and with all of you and support each other as an ecosystem. Keeps coming back. Keeps coming back. Okay, I think that's it. So if you decided to watch this, thank you. If I haven't met you in person yet or virtually, I hope I do someday, because what I'm learning from this trip is, man, it is all connected, all connected. So lots of love to everyone. See you soon.